Yeah, what's up, everybody? We are live, ready to roll. Access Omaha again coming to you, and my boy Levi and I, we're going to get after it because we're going to talk a little bit today about action and
reactions.
Happy
Friday.
Yeah, happy Friday. Some good stuff going on here, some good discussion. Levi, I'm going to allow you to kind of introduce this because you've kind of been thinking about it, processing it, and then I'll kind of chime in here and there. But happy Friday, Access Omaha. Talk to us, Levi.
Welcome back, guys. Thanks so much for tuning in. We had a little bit of a break there again, just getting crazy busy in the summertime. Rye guy over here went to New York and was just training with some of the best of the real estate industry. So, man, he brought back a lot of nuggets from that. And I think in that just kind of got us talking and thinking about, what you do on a day-to-day basis and how that kind of affects certain things and outcomes down the road and production, life, whatever it might be. We've talked about stuff like this before in the past about focusing on the little things and creating these types of actions to have long-term effects and results. But I wanted to hit on it again in kind of a different format and talk more about how taking action sometimes is just so much better than no action altogether. I've been talking with some other people within the industry, friends and things like that over the last week or so, and just in conversations talked about, I feel like a lot of people get this fear of starting, right? Like starting is the hardest part of anything, whether it's my New Year's resolution to go to the gym or picking up the phone to do those 20 cold calls or whatever it is. Just that fear and anxiety of, hey, just let me start doing this, because I think what happens with a lot of people is they get this thing in their mind like, oh, I'm not good at it. I'm not good at that one thing. I'm not good at the cold calls. I'm not good at the door knocking. I'm not super good at those things, so I'm going to kind of shy away from them, and that's what creates a barrier to entry or a fear of starting. But what a lot of people don't understand is just taking the action of doing something, even if you completely suck at it. I mean, even if you fall absolutely flat on your face with whatever it is that you're trying to do. One thing I've noticed for myself is that just taking that action allows me to go, oh, yeah, I did kind of suck at that. But whoa, this is what I sucked at, and here's what I could do a little bit better next time. And it allows you to build a little bit of self-confidence in whatever that thing is, right? So that self-confidence allows you to go, okay, you know what, that call sucked, or that door knocking sucked. I didn't do that good a job. I stuttered. I didn't remember what I was going to say. But now I got through that. Let me try it again. And then again and again and again, and it builds confidence, and then it helps you handle those situations a lot better in the future, even if it's not something that's your strong suit or something that you want to continue to do. At least you've created that confidence. You've been able to take action on whatever that thing is, so that down the road, those after effects, those reactions from those actions will definitely 10x or tenfold for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I think as we think about, even putting forth like those actions, a lot of times, that's why I think great leaders are great leaders, right? And that's why I think there's a lot of people, even in my industry, and we talked about this when I went to New York, with these other coaches and things, there's a reason why 5% of leaders in industries succeed more than anybody else that does, right? Because there's a lot of followers. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of people that look at someone and they say, I want to be him.
Right.
And they don't realize that in order to be him, there's a lot of action steps that need to take place. And there's a lot of people and other things that need to fall into those steps and those formations to get to that person, right? Yep. And I think a lot of people just either they don't think about that, or they think it'll be easy, and then they start trying to do it and they fail at it, and then they quit instead of okay, what did I learn from that? How do I make that better next time or next go around, and then implement it better, you know, and then go to the next thing. And I just think that sometimes in our world, like we look at these successful people, and at least for me, there's times where I'll catch myself doing this, where I look at someone that's been really successful, but I don't know the story. Like, I don't know what took place 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 20 years ago when they first got started doing it to get to the point that they're at now, right? And I think it's so easy for us to look at the end than it is to look back and be like,
at the journey.
How did they get there? Like, what were the steps that they took? And I think every one of those people would say, like, it took me a long time to implement these steps or to take action and do these things. But I took action and I did it, right? And I think that's where a lot of us have to get better at taking action and putting forth the steps to just do it. Like, I know it sounds easy, but how many of us get into something in our life, or, you know, think we want to go do something, and then we start doing it for a short period of time and we quit, you know? And we quit because, like, it got too difficult, or we didn't know how to overcome it, or a challenge. And I think sometimes we've got to understand that if we're going to be great, you don't become great overnight. Like, you become great by being consistent and disciplined in the little things, right? And I think you hear that from almost every single person you talk to that's been successful, is like, listen, I didn't get here overnight. I didn't become great overnight. You know, like I had to do this and do this and do this and do this, and it's like a list that goes on and on.
Yeah, it is. So Ryan, tell me, maybe put you on the spot. Tell me something maybe within the last month that you have, maybe it's something that you've done different in action, or something that you've seen. Oh, hey, maybe even in real estate, talking about your, you know, kind of your day business. What's something you've seen in real estate that, you know, maybe it's the market that we're in or something like that, where you're like, hey, we're in this crazy market, you know, here's an action step that I need to take that I didn't need to take 6 months ago, that I need to take, or I need to instruct my people to take, to make sure that we have better results, or better this or better that.
You know, I think it's something that I've been talking about over and over, and something we discussed when we went to New York with our group, and that was, you know, I think a lot of times we live in a society where we want instant results, right? Like, in my industry, we pay for leads, you know, whether that's, you know, I'm not going to mention any names of where we're getting those leads, but we pay these companies to then give us leads, right? And then that lead comes in and we follow up with them, and we have resources and tools to basically have a good follow-up system with them. But I think what's difficult in that, or what can get mundane, is you get 15 to 20 leads, and you start not necessarily like losing track of those, but you kind of forget, like, as you get caught up in all the other stuff that goes on. And as I was thinking about it, and the things that we discussed, you know, at this meeting, was we're all about relationships, right? And I think too many people get caught up in the number of transactions, or a specific number that they have in mind, that they forget that in order to get to those numbers, a key word is nurture. You know, like, you have to nurture that person or that client, sometimes for 6 months, 12 months, a year, 2 years, in order to get to the end result that you essentially want, right? But a lot of people don't want to do that. A lot of people want the result immediately, and it's like, that's not how it works, you know? So if you're not an expert in nurturing relationships, then you're going to have a very difficult time in this industry, you know? And so that's a thing, honestly, that's not like something that I, you know, realize we need to do more of over the last month or 6 months or what. Like, that's something we have to be good at every single day.
Every day.
You know? And then, like, as we're talking about, taking that action and nurturing that, following up with people, answering questions, making sure that we're staying on top of the leads that have come in, or the people that have been referred to us, then eventually turn into that end result. But it's not going to take place if you don't nurture it, right?
Right.
So that's one action step. But I think the other thing that I can think of, and this is a constant thing for me, and it probably is like a monthly thing, and that is, looking at the way that I'm spending my money as I'm running my business. Now I've got somebody that runs reports for me every single month, and they run a P&L report for me, profit and loss. And so I'm able to look at that report and say, okay, what's my ROI on this?
Yeah.
And then what's my loss on some of these other things? So I tend to say they're on the chopping block, right? So I've got maybe 18 or 19 things that I'm paying for monthly, and I'm looking at the ROI on some of those things, and I'm saying, who's on the chopping block? So like, who's on the chopping block? Who's probably not going to make it? And then, I look at the other things and say, wow, this one's giving us a great return on our investment. Let's put more money into it, right? Yeah, and I just think that's wise business. I think but again, if I don't take action on that,
you just let it go.
Which is, I think another example of people in our industry is they get signed up for all these things and they start paying for all these monthly, subscriptions to things. And before you know it, you're like, man, I'm paying $5,000 a month and I'm not tracking any of this stuff.
And where's it all going?
Exactly.
What am I getting out of it?
But I think in any industry, like in any business, if you're not tracking those things, like you're going to be setting yourself up for failure.
Yeah.
Because you might make, you might net $70,000 that year, but you could have netted 150,000 more because you weren't basically on top of those different things and doing a P&L every single month and looking at things.
That's good stuff. I have one.
Yeah.
So this is mortgage related. So for those of you who don't know, my day job, mortgage banker. But I've learned, so this market that we're all in, if you're a home buyer, you own a home, or you pay attention to real estate at all, that's been a little bit of a bananas year here, I think nationally, but certainly locally here in the Omaha market, it's been pretty crazy. Volumes up year over year, home values, purchase prices are up year over year. So with that, the market's been pretty intense, and I think this year, something I've learned, this is within a couple of months, not just recently, fairly recently though, when I would get a transaction in, I have a certain process on how I would work with
core bank shout out.
Yeah, I have a certain process on how I would work with my clients, how we would submit their loans, move forward, blah 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 blah. And typically, when I would start working with a client, we send out disclosures, request documents. Once those documents come in from the client, then we're ordering the appraisal. This market has been absolutely bananas, which means that everyone who's in real estate is busy. That includes the lender, the real estate agent, the title company, the home inspector, the termite inspector, and the appraisal, or the appraiser rather. So in a traditional market, I get appraisals back within 10 business days, typically from the order date. Now we're seeing 2 weeks, sometimes 3 weeks, depending on if it's a government or not. So one of the things I've had to just learn these last couple of months is, hey, I need to tweak my process a little bit. Day one, we get that contract in, we're ordering the appraisal. We don't have the luxury before of, I'm going to wait 3, 4, 5 days for my client to send back in all their packages and then order that appraisal. I need to do it day one regardless. So that's been a little bit of a learning curve, something I've had to take action on sooner just to keep service level for my clients and just keep things moving forward and on track. So yeah,
that's good stuff.
That's kind of something.
Yeah. As you think about like the mortgage industry and the lending industry and things like that, what's something for you as we talk about taking action, right? Like as you get busy, like what's kind of a non-negotiable for you in your daily schedule that you're like, no matter how busy I get, right? Because busy means so many different things, but no matter how busy I get, what's an action that you do every single day that like you have to do and it's non-negotiable for you?
Wow, that's actually really good. So it's basically just a touch. For me, I have I have kind of an interactive system. It's a third-party system that I pay for that it's like a little bit of a dashboard that allows me to kind of monitor all the transactions that I have going. Essentially has it's a countdown clock that shows when close of escrows are and stuff. So I make sure I touch that, or at least view it every single day, so I can see who's coming up next and then how much time we have left, right? And that helps me prioritize things a little bit throughout the day, because if I have somebody who's closing in 10 days versus someone who's closing in 30 days, obviously time emphasis, we work on first in, first out. So that's definitely it. That includes, hey, I try to check on every one of my loan files every day. Just check on status, and it could be just looking at my dashboard and doing a mental of, hey, where's this guy or person or couple or whatever it is, where are they at in process? And maybe it's just a mental thing of going, okay, hey, the appraisal's been ordered, disclosures are out, blah blah blah, whatever. So just touching, or at least mentally checking in on every single one of my active live transactions every day, I think is something that I think is very important, because it allows me to know what's priority, time manage, what do I need to work on first, and who comes first in the process, etc. So
that's good stuff.
Yeah,
I like it. I think action is one of those things that has to definitely take place, and I think so many times, like we get caught up in, like a lot of, I'll explain it to my students as I'm coaching them, that there's got to be two things that you do consistently, right? And what the real estate agent, I think sometimes in my industry does, is they get caught in the whirlwind and they work in the business, 99% of the time, right? So in the business, what I mean by that is they're constantly like in this whirlwind. So they get to start showing people houses, right? And then they get that person under contract, and then they're talking to the lender, and they get so caught up in this whirlwind of one thing to the next, one thing to the next, one thing to the next, that 1, 2, 3 years out, they find themselves in the same spot saying, like, why haven't I grown my business? Why haven't I? And what they haven't done is taken the time to work on their business, right? So there's a difference between being in the business and then working on the business. And when you're working on the business, a lot of times that takes action, right? Like, it's already, we're being busy and we're doing action stuff in the business, right? Because that's what we do. That's how we make our money. But it takes time, effort, discipline to work on the business and actually set time aside and say, okay, for this hour today, I'm going to simply sit back and look at my business and say, what do I need to do to grow this thing, if that's your goal, to grow it, or what can I do better? Maybe it's a hire, so maybe it's someone that you're like, well, maybe I need to hire someone, because I need help with this kind of things. But I usually try to break it down in like those 3 P's of like people. Is it people oriented? Like whether I need to hire someone, is it project? Like is there something I need to do better with, like my CRM or things like that? Or production, like where am I at on my production, and how am I going to get my production to where I want it to be? All actions. Right?
So was that, did we just get a nugget there? What was the 3 P's?
You did. You got some nuggets. So I like to go set goals for people. So I say my 3 P's. You got it's people oriented.
Okay.
It's project oriented. And it's production. So I always, because this is what happens, right, with a lot of people, is when it relates to production in my industry, somebody will say like, I want to make $100,000 this year. Or I want to do 6 million in volume, or I want to do 50 transactions, right? So like, then you've got to constantly break that down, right? Because if you just set that goal out there and say, all right, the next 12 months I'm going to try to go hit this, sometimes people are going to hit that, but majority of the time they won't, because they set that goal in January, and then November comes around, they're like, oh, I'm at 3.3 million. I guess I'm not going to hit 6 or whatever. But what I've found is, if you're constantly evaluating that at least once a month, and you're saying, okay, what was my production this month? Where am I at? Where do I need to be? So where am I at? What am I on pace for? And is that pace going to hit my end goal, right? So if I'm having that conversation with myself every single month, which is usually when I'm reevaluating or evaluating my P&L, and I'm looking at that, and then I'm looking at my production, and I'm saying, okay, are we on task? Are we not? What do we need to change? You're having that, you're creating action steps, right? Because you're going in there and it's like, who's on the cutting block? Who's on the board that's going to get cut? Okay, there's an action that needs to take place. I hand that off to someone on my team. I no longer want to pay for that. Go take care of it. Go cancel it. Go do whatever. Creating action, right? Like something with the ROI where it's producing and you want to double up on it or whatever. Hey, go put more money into that. So you're creating action by breaking these things down. So there's the production piece. The people piece is typically like, who do I need to hire right now? Like if we're on pace to go to this next level, then maybe it's time that we go get another assistant. Maybe we go get another transaction coordinator. Maybe we go get 3 or 4 more buyer's agents, So like you're constantly evaluating like where are we at in realms of all these other things that are happening. And then project can be anything, like usually as I'm working with students and things like that, it's like, hey, help me get my CRM intact and help me go through it and discern who I should put in it, who I shouldn't. Then it's like, who needs to be on a drip campaign, and so you're just breaking down kind of these projects tasks, but again, creating action. So you discuss it, you go over it, and then it's like, okay, by the time we talk next time, I want this, then you're setting expectations and creating action to be like, okay, I want this stuff done by the next time we talk. Right? So again, I think it's just, you've got to have systems in place, tools in place, resources in place in order to create that action for you. Because sometimes it's like you might not go show a house today. Right? And you might not like go meet with a client today. So what are you going to do that day? Well, if you don't have action and you don't have tools and resources and systems set up in place, you have no clue what you're going to do that day. Yep. And somebody else is going to go get business.
That's right.
So I love this topic because we could talk hours and hours on it. But
the one thing we want to kind of imprint on you guys is, what's that thing you're afraid of? What's the thing you're afraid? What are those actions you're afraid of taking? Or maybe that you're putting some mental barriers on yourself and saying, oh, I'm not that good at that, or I shouldn't do that, or maybe that's not one of my, strengths or something like that. That's okay. A lot of times some of the most successful people aren't super good at the things that they do. They're just really good at doing things. Right? There's a difference there. So
you just dropped a little nugget.
I did, yeah. I'll say that again. So a lot of times the most successful people aren't super good at what they do. They're just really good at doing things. So what that means is people who take out action, just get out there and just do things, oftentimes have more success than those who are very proficient at one thing, right? Because you're so laser focused on one specific thing, it doesn't allow you to see the forest for the tree or the tree for the forest or whatever, how that saying goes. So yeah, guys, look into it. I mean, think about your day-to-day, whatever your growth is, whether that's relationally in your life or your production or your business, whatever it is. Go out there, take those actions. Don't be afraid of them. A lot of times doing things is going to give you confidence to keep moving down the road, and I promise you, you're going to get better at it, or at least you're going to have a little bit of confidence to go, you know what, I did that, I gave it my all, wasn't super good at it, let me find somebody who is.
So, for sure.
Right
stuff.
On. Happy Friday, guys.
Happy Friday.
Let us know if you have questions, comments down below. Got anything else?
I don't think so. I think we're good.
Okay.
All right.
Good stuff.
See you guys.
Thanks,
have
guys.
a good one. Peace out. We're still live, by the way, because Cass isn't here. What's up?